That's right. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Bridging the Gap here on the Jersey First TV network. As always, I'm AJ Malillo,
And I'm Stephen Rombolo.
and we're back with another week of Bridging the Gap on the Jersey First TV network. And you can check us out anytime on Jersey First TV on YouTube, where you can hit that notification bell, hit that subscribe button, get all your Jersey First related content. That's Bridging the Gap, the Nader Narrative, Real Talk with Fernando. You can also check us out anytime on jerseyfirst.org, where you can sign up for our newsletter and sign the pledge to keep Jersey first. And you can also, of course, check us out on demand anytime on unnj.com. So, Steven, what's up? Another week in the books. How we doing? How we feeling?
That's exactly what it was, man. Another week. I think we were talking about this just before we came on live, but I think I had my first like true law school, grind of an assignment, like really just pouring everything I had into this memorandum I had to write. A lot of late nights. I was up. I found a coffee shop down here that's open till 2 a.m. So I spent quite a few hours in there last night. Almost closed them out, and just put in the work, got the memo done, handed it in, and big weight off my shoulders. But I'll tell you what, it was really cool because I woke up today, and I do this a lot, and this could be beneficial for others, but I don't know. Even though I'm in school, I genuinely love what I do, and I treat it like a job, and I take it very seriously. And so this memo was the first, persuasive. It was a motion for summary judgment, and so this is something that, like, hypothetically, I would write and someday submit to a court for a judge to read. And so I woke up today, I looked at myself in the mirror, I said, "You're about to hand in, your first attempt at something that's going to go, into a court document that's going to affect the legislative, like an outcome of a judicial proceeding that's going to affect somebody's life." And just make sure that whatever I hand to that professor today is something that I'm proud of and something that I'm confident in. And just having that perspective and treating it with the seriousness that, in 3 short years it's going to carry with it, I think really helped me get in the right state of mind. And I put a lot of passion into that document. So I was really happy to do it. I'm looking forward to the next one. And just another one of those moments where, like, even though it's hard, even though it's frustrating, even though it's long hours and it's like mentally exhausting, it was so totally worth it. The feeling that I had when I looked at it, and granted, it's all simulation at this point, but it said, Stephen Rombolo, attorney for defendant, and I was like, yeah, that sounds right. That sounds like how it's supposed to. So even though it was an assignment, it still got me all jacked up, and I'm very excited, and it just makes me excited to keep doing these things every day. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like it's like any goal or anything you set for yourself. Once it's accomplished, it's that initial feeling of like you did it, you put in the hours, you put in the work, and you know that you put your best foot forward, and that's all you can ask for at the end of the day. Like, and what's nice about being in school is that you have like these goals and marks, yeah, consistently on a consistent basis, but it keeps you in that mindset of things are going to be hard, 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 and then it'll reach a point where it's over, you've reached that goal. But like Sisyphus pushing up a stone, the next one's coming rolling down. You're gonna roll you back down, you're gonna have to push it back up. You're starting from scratch pretty much every time. But it's what's important to know if you're still in school, what's important to take from that and the lessons that you should take from that is that it's never over. There's always going to be the next thing to do. You never reach a top. You only reach a plateau with another mountain to climb. So you're always going to be starting from ground zero at some point.
that was a brilliant way to put it, and I couldn't have said it any better. I do feel like Sisyphus. I wake up, and today, like I said, there was a little more joy in it, but there is that moment where you go, gotta push that rock up that mountain today. But once you fall in love with it, man, it doesn't feel like work. And I think I feel like it's cliche. Everybody says that, but like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And even though I'm in school, this is really more than a 9 to 5 commitment for me. And I treat it as such. And I love every second of it. So cool week in the books, big moment in the arc of like my law school career that I've really been just kind of relishing in the moment. But how about you? I love every time that we get on and you work prior to these recordings that you're just dressed to the nines, dapper as can be.
Look, I gotta be suited up at work at the prosecutor's office. My hair is not perfect today. I was like running around to get here on time in traffic, but so just ignore the hair. But yeah, no, I was over at the office. I was doing some research assignments. Some cool cases are coming down the pike, so I'm pretty excited for that. I was doing a little bit of court observations. In the next few weeks slash months, I'll be able to actually like get in front of the court so and make an argument. So excited for that to come along. But just kind of taking it day by day, whatever comes my way. I try and do the best work that I can. And I think I'm doing a pretty bang up job over there. I mean, I can't speak with 100% certainty in that, but I think I'm doing pretty good. But I guess we find out when those evaluation reports come out at the end of the semester and go to Villanova, and they'll let me know if I did a good job or not with the grade I get. So
The day of reckoning will come.
that's right. It always comes. You always find out one way or the other.
It's true. It's very true. But it is exciting. It is
Ah,
very.
it is. It is. I'm certainly excited. But Steve, look, we got a lot going on, and we got some stories to cover. And the day we're recording this, it's at the end of the week, but it's tomorrow on the day that this episode is going to come out for the people. So tomorrow is Super Bowl Sunday, a big week for the United States of America. We got the Chiefs taking on the 49ers. And I guess before we get into our story, which ties into the Super Bowl a little bit, what who's your pick? Do you got Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs and Travis Kelce and America's sweetheart of a story, Travis and Taylor? Or are you going with San Francisco 49ers and Mr. Irrelevant and Christian McCaffrey, the best running back in football? What are you thinking?
So I've actually thought a lot about, probably more than I should actually think about this, because I feel like I have a vested interest here, right? So as a Packers fan, part of me wants the 49ers to go all the way so I can walk around with a little bit of pride and say, at least we lost to the champs. But then there's the spiteful part of me that's like, if I had to lose, so do they. But then also within that perspective is, I never like a legacy. I don't know. It's never fun to watch a legacy happen. It's repetitive. I mean, we're talking what, 5 Super Bowl appearances in the past 6 years? Like, we're talking Tom Brady numbers for Patrick Mahomes. And then within that argument, I also don't want to be a hater of a great talent. So I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about this, but I think at the end of the day, for me, I have to take the spiteful route. I'm gonna go Patrick Mahomes. I want to see him build a legacy. I want to add another ring to Andy Reid's collection. I think that man is a gem. He's hysterical, and I'm here for the storyline. Let the Swifties have their moment. This could be a big commercial moment for football. We're gonna get a lot more fans, maybe some better games, bigger games, cool locations. Who knows? And most importantly, though, I just want the 49ers to lose embarrassingly this way. I feel a little bit better about us losing to them in the playoffs. So I'm taking Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs all the way.
That's fair. Look, I would agree with a lot of what you said. Nobody likes a dynasty, but you have to respect greatness. It's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. It just is. They find a way to win, even years when they're not that good, like this year. Which like is crazy to say about a team in the Super Bowl. But I've watched this team now. We all have for 6 years build this great team, and this is not good. Like they're not good comparatively to the other teams they are. But there is something to be said about knowing how to win and knowing how to win the big game. And the Chiefs know how to do that. And Andy Reid's going to draw up a great game plan. Their defensive coordinator is awesome. Spagnuolo is one of the best in the league. And I think it's a really tough game. I think it's going to be a close game. I think the 49ers keep it close. But ultimately, I just can't – you can't bet against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. They just know how to win these games. And it pains me to say it, because I do want the San Francisco 49ers to win. I want the 49ers to win. I like Brock Purdy and the Mr. Irrelevant story, but I got to go with the Chiefs. You can't bet against them. There's something about knowing how to win that I just can't put it past them,
I'm completely with you. And one minor tangent. How do you feel about who's performing in the halftime? We have Usher this year. How do we feel
Yeah.
about this?
I think it'll be a lot of fun. I don't know. Like Usher, yes, sure, he's a has-been and he's, not in his peak popularity, but I think he has a lot of stadium tunes that'll get people going and dancing, and I think it opens the door for a lot of fun, a very fun halftime show. Um, that being said, obviously Taylor Swift is gonna be there, and she was offered the halftime show, like, months and months ago before the Travis Kelce thing even happened, and it's like, at this point, she probably regrets not taking it. She coulda gotten paid to go instead of paying two millions of dollars to be there, but what are you gonna do?
You're right. I'm principally opposed to Usher being the Super Bowl halftime show. I think that more important than the fact that he's irrelevant. I just find his character to be extremely questionable. If you're familiar at all with what he was doing when he was coming up in his career, and uh, to be vague enough to get the point across, he was a transmitter of transmitted diseases knowingly. And I just, ever since I learned that about him, kind of turned me off. And I don't know why that's the guy that we want to put on the biggest television program of the year and promote and give a residency. And he's the face of a new, clothing campaign with Kim Kardashian. It just, I'm not saying that everybody needs to be held forever, to their mistakes and whatnot, but just not the guy that I would want there. We have so much other talent. I almost would have rather a Taylor Swift. Give me, if we're going R&B, give me a Chris Brown. I think he's the king of R&B. That's a hot take, but a
I don't
totally
know,
different.
but Chris Brown is not a good example for what you're
that was
you're trying to
that was a
describe.
poor example.
That was maybe the worst person you could have picked right there. Like, okay, no, there's one person who would have been worse in the R&B realm than Chris Brown if you're talking about this type of thing, and that we don't have to mention him, but he
Oh,
definitely wouldn't do a halftime show because he's in jail.
that was a true lapse of judgment on my behalf there. Wow.
Fair enough,
Regardless,
but regardless, talking about the Super Bowl halftime show, talking about pop stars, that brings us into the story that we're going to hit first here, which is what is going on with Travis Kelce's girlfriend and the most popular woman on planet Earth, the probably the pinnacle of pop culture right now, and that is Taylor Swift. And this happened a few weeks ago, and it ties in to the story that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Uh, and that is the fact that there was deep fake porn swirling around the internet using depictions of Taylor Swift, and it went viral on X. And it's brought a lot of questions and attention to this issue that we discussed a few weeks ago, where this deep fake AI generated pornography has been making the rounds across the internet. We talked about a story out of New Jersey with high school students making deep fake AI generated pornography of their classmates, and now this is also happening, and we're seeing it happen with somebody as big as Taylor Swift. And if you think for a second that this is a niche and not at all, plausible problem that's going on, I have news for you, because it's going to proliferate everywhere, because that's what technology does, and that's what, gross people do. They do seedy things, and then those seedy things seep and ruin wells for everyone. So I I think that this is an important issue, and it's important that somebody as big as Taylor Swift is now going to have a legitimate gripe and grounds to stand on and say that this isn't okay. And you're already seeing things like the Defiance Act, which is a bipartisan bill that was recently brought up in Congress to hold people accountable for the proliferation of non-consensual sexual explicit deepfake images and videos. And you can look it up. This was by Senator Durbin and Senator Lindsey Graham. So it is a bipartisan bill. And there's a whole little page sort of, I guess, memo that's out there, a press release that's out there talking about what the Defiance Act is for. As we all know, our Congress loves an acronym. So Defiance stands for Disrupt Explicit Forged Images and Non-Consensual Edits Act of 2024. That's the Defiance Act. Uh,
Pretty good.
and they go on to talk about the issues, and they said that a 2019 study found that 96% of deepfake videos were non-consensual pornography. And I think that we talked about legislation in the state of New Jersey. This is legislation in our Senate. We talked about Jersey congressional members, or part of our congressional delegation, trying to also bring up a bill in the House. And this is exactly what we need to happen. And it's a shame that it takes this happening to Taylor Swift for it to really make its way into the national zeitgeist. But hopefully, some sort of good can come out of this horrific story, which is Taylor Swift can bring a lawsuit against the people that created this. We get actual legislation on the books, making this not just a civil liability and a civil tort, but an actual criminal offense that we can start putting these people away, and we can stop the proliferation of this non-consensual action, because it is a violation of people's privacy. It is a violation of, I think, truly of human nature. It's something very, very deeply wrong with it. And I just honestly, Stephen, I don't think that any argument, like it's not actually them or anything like that, will hold any muster or hold any water, because you wouldn't want it made of you non-consensually, and most people probably wouldn't want it made of them consensually. So I I just don't see any solid argument on the other side, and I just think we should completely get rid of this, disband it, and make it cease to exist as fast as we can.
Yeah. So I'll say this much: I agree just about everything that you said. I'm still a little bit stuck up on this notion that I don't necessarily know if it is fair to treat these fake images um, similar, or at bare minimum the same that we treat non-consensual explicit images of real people, real victims, people that were actually in person victimized. I think there has to be some sort of discrepancy within the law that we create. To me personally, I think that it's just different levels of victimization that require different levels of punishment. However, this is the kind of thing that should be left up to, obviously, the legislature, which should be representative of the population and the people, but who knows what kind of special interests are going to, get in behind these bills, these senators, and fund these things. What I thought was really interesting about this, and I wanted to get your take on, it's alleged that these photos, which I know you mentioned they were circling around X, it's alleged that they came from the, I'll call it rather notorious for bad reasons, website 4chan, which is kind of known for being almost that spring of where these nasty things that ultimately end up in public discourse come from. And what this was pulled from the New York Times, what they talk about is how there was sort of this open challenge that was published on 4chan for people who are savvy with this kind of technology and these softwares to find a way to bypass the regulations that OpenAI is the one that they mentioned specifically in their program DALL-E. I think that's how you pronounce it, DALL-E. I'm not familiar. DALLE. So this program, OpenAI, has said that it's designed and it has safeguards in it to filter out explicit content, explicit requests. And so 4chan, on one of these forums, somebody had proposed this challenge, which was essentially, hey, see if you can hack this, bypass those, and let's see what we can make once these restrictions are off. And so I'm curious as to where you think, maybe, is there a liability that we could assign to the people that facilitate these programs? Like, if the safeguards are able to be cracked that easily and then spread like wildfire, do they share part in enabling people to create these kinds of images? I think it's going to be another one of those things with this discussion that's going to be needed to be fleshed out, because you have a statement from Sam Altman at the time, who was CEO of OpenAI, where he says, we very specifically, very with intent, try to filter out these explicit things, and we train the program to filter these things out. But if it's hacked, should they have better safeguards? Or if it's hacked, are they no longer liable for what's produced?
Yeah, I don't think you can hold them liable if their software gets, or yeah, if their software gets hacked. Um, I think that maybe now that it has been hacked, they have some sort of a liability or responsibility to fix that and make sure that it can't happen in the same way. But I think it's difficult, that would be like somebody going to a car dealership, stealing a car, and then running somebody over with the stolen car. You can't really blame the the car dealership for that. You could say, "Oh, they should have had better safeguards in place," but, like, if they lock their doors and somebody breaks in and steals the car, there's only so much that they can do. Um, so I don't know. I would have a hard time placing liability on the company. I think you could certainly have liability on the whoever was on that 4chan chat that participated in it and created this sort of competition to try and hack the system. I think that person can be held liable in some way. And I just have to push back, and I have to disagree with this fact that you're not affecting somebody in the same way if it's real or fake. I think that the problem with these images is that they're so indistinguishable from real or fake images that you're actually completely harming a person's, and not to be tongue in cheek, reputation for this, right? So it's an actual issue that is affecting actual people in a real concrete matter. And I don't care if they're AI generated or not. The whole point of these AI generated photos is that they look real. It's indistinguishable to the human eye. And I just
Yeah.
I don't think, and it's only going to get better.
Yes. I I share that sentiment, and obviously, and that I was going to make that same point actually about the hacking of these systems. And I know this is how a lot of online things work, where it's like there's a back door, somebody gets in, they patch it, somebody else is going to find the next back door. And so I think the company itself faces a long road, and we face a long road combating this. But again, to that point, I just don't see how we can place the same value on a fictitious fake photograph to where I would argue the victim, there is no victim. Like there's actually like the subject matter of the
Oh no,
photograph is
they're
not
they're certainly
real.
a victim.
The
They're
subject
certainly a
matter of the
victim.
photograph is not real.
The
There's a
face is
victim.
certainly real.
If it's generated by AI, if it's an amalgamation of
That's using
data
somebody's
and
likeness. That's
pixels,
directly using somebody's likeness. That is what
I,
likeness is.
I understand that, but then again, I think that the answer of these questions might just be too nuanced, because I would say, where does this data come from? How does the software function to produce that particular likeness? Because there's certain kinds of AI softwares. You can use Dolly, you can use, Chat GPT, all these other AIs. If I type in Taylor Swift, create Taylor Swift playing a comically large guitar, I bet you every AI software is going to give me a different version of Taylor Swift's face. You know what I mean? So like, I think when you dig into the nuance of these things, I just cannot equate in my mind a real life, non-consensual explicit photograph of somebody versus one that was created by amalgamated data and images that are publicly accessible online to represent something.
Yeah, if I'm being completely honest, Stephen, I don't think that nuance needs to be made. I don't think we have to look as analytically and as deep as you're making it out to be. I think you have a clear victim. I think you're clearly invading somebody's personal life and privacy, and you're completely altering and ruining reputations uh, of these individuals that are for nefarious ends. And I think that it doesn't matter the means. If the ends are bad, then they should be treated as such. And I don't care if it's AI generated or if like those classic early 2000s, tabloid upskirt journalist photos. And for those listening, I did air quotes around journalists. Like, I don't care what it is. You're invading somebody's privacy. You're completely just what's violating somebody. whether it's AI generated or not, and I can't I don't think it needs to be that nuanced. I think this is a great evil, and we should treat it as one.
You're killing me, man. You're killing me. And this is what's so, I think, important about this discussion. I want to say this much. This is novel. This is brand new. We don't have a prescription for how to deal with this. And that's, I guess maybe that's where I come from, because I agree with you. I think that it is evil. I do believe that these people are actually victims. Like, Taylor Swift was certainly victimized by the creation and proliferation of these explicit AI images. What I struggle with is, how do we punish that behavior? Because I think a lot of the way that we punish people is based on the nature of the crime, the victim. How did they, execute the crime? Like, there's so many things that you can consider, if you were taking like the approach of a juror, per se, and, what goes into all of these things. And I could never get over the fact that it might be explicit, it might have these, awful consequences, but it's not actually Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, the walking, living, breathing human, did not have an explicit photo of her taken and disseminated without her consent. It was something that was created. It was drawn up. I could see somebody, and I'm not making this argument myself, but I could see somebody making the argument that it's an artistic expression. I chose to create this particular image for the sake of art, and am I not allowed to express myself with these tools?
Yes. You're not allowed to express yourself with those tools. We have basic rules against that in the First Amendment. Obscenity is not covered under the First Amendment. This is clearly obscenity. It's like definitionally obscene by the Supreme Court's definition of obscene, which is sexually explicit content, which this is. So no, you don't have the right to do that. You don't have the freedom of your expression in that instance. No, it is unquestionable that the First Amendment does not cover that. So to answer that question, absolutely not. You don't have that. It's not an excuse. And it's not edifying in any way. It's nefarious and malicious. It's not like a beautiful nude painting out of the Renaissance era where you have a model who agreed to do the nude painting, and it's this edifying, beautifying piece of art. No, this is nefarious, it's malicious, and it's not consensual. And this is, Stephen, and unfortunately, like, we're just about out of time, but my last point on this is, like, this is the problem that people have with lawyers, and quite frankly, an issue that I have with lawyers. Sometimes it's not gray. Sometimes an issue can be black and white. This is wrong. It should be treated as wrong, and we should not hold any punches when it comes to it. We need to cut this off at the root. Like you said, it's a novel issue. Let's not make it anything more than a novel issue. Let's get it out now. Stop it. Stomp it out as quick as we can.
All right. For the purposes of being very, very clear here, I want to say I agree with you that this is an evil. I agree with you that these images are bad. Anybody who goes out and creates these, you are a bad person. You are doing something that society deems punishable. It is reprehensible. It's an invasion of privacy, 1000%. I just cannot get over equating fake images to real images with real victims. I in my head, I cannot bridge that gap. And I would just, the system is adversarial for a reason, right? And I think this is the discussion that's ultimately going to be had, because truthfully, I think that there's probably people out there who might disagree with us, who might not see anything wrong and might genuinely believe 100%. I'm fractionally arguing that punishment is really the only issue I have, when it comes to these things. I don't think we should punish these people the same way that we would punish somebody who went out and, like, took a non-consensual naked photograph of somebody. I think that those are two different kinds of invasion of privacy. But I think that there's people who probably don't see an issue with it, who might see it as if I make it for me and I keep it in my little dirty, creepy folder of dirty, creepy things, then I'm not actually hurting anybody. And as much as that is reprehensible in and of itself, somebody has to offer those people at least the chance to have their opinion be heard. And if society doesn't agree, that's why we have the system.
Well, luckily, Stephen, everybody's entitled to their wrong opinions. And that's the beautiful thing about our country is that they can be wrong and not be punished for being wrong, although they can be punished for doing wrong. And that's what I want to do. So, Steve, I hate to do this, and this is a conversation that we can have many, many more times going forward. But
Yes.
look, unfortunately, I got to run. I got class in a little bit, so I have to go. But this was another episode of Bridging the Gap here on the Jersey First TV network. And I hope that everybody enjoys Super Bowl Sunday tomorrow. Steve and I, as you heard, are both betting on the Chiefs, but I'm rooting for the 49ers still either way. And we'll see what happens, and we'll talk to you next week for another episode of Bridging the Gap. I'm AJ Malillo.
I'm Steven Rombolo.
Have a good week, everyone.